Hello and welcome to Boozy Book Reports, a simple podcast where we revisit childhood classics while drinking copious amounts of alcohol. We're your hosts, Beth
and Sam.
And this month we're reporting on The Skin I'm In by Sharon G. Flake, first published in 1998.
Yeah.
First impressions?
I liked it.
Me too.
Yeah.
I have so much to say.
I'm excited to hear what you think about it.
Yeah.
In general, I thought it was a nice book.
Yeah. It's different.
I read it when I was on vacation and I actually really enjoyed it and kind of couldn't put it down.
Yeah, it was a quick read and it had a nice flow. But before we're going to get into this book, we're going to get into the drinks. Sam has made two very interesting looking, cocktails, but one's not a cocktail.
Well, it's a cocktail.
Okay. It's a cocktail.
Sometimes people call them mocktails.
Yes.
But yeah, it's a cocktail. So the first thing I've made is a New York sour. And so since we're reading this book in honor of Juneteenth, and we've tried to highlight some alcohols made by Black spirits makers and Black wine makers. So a New York sour is a whiskey sour that has, whiskey sour is lemon whiskey and a little bit of simple syrup and egg white. So we put egg white in this one. And then a New York sour floats a little bit of red wine on top. So the red wine... The whiskey, the whiskey is made, it's Uncle Nearest whiskey, which is an award-winning whiskey from Tennessee. And it honors the first Black spirit maker in the U.S. who supposedly taught Jack Daniels everything that he knew. And actually, it's his descendant that's the whiskey, the blender now. And so she's one of the few female whiskey makers in the country, or blenders in the country.
Wow.
And then the wine is made by a local winery, Frechette, which is also a Black-owned business.
Okay, here we go. I'm nervous. That's different. It's a lot of different. Okay, I just have to say I hate wine. Yeah. Especially red wine.
That's a top note, honestly.
Yeah.
I like this drink, but I also recognize that you would not. So I had thought about, I also got the Uncle Nearest rye. Because I was like, maybe I'll make a Sazerac too. And then I immediately thought, I can't do that to Beth. I can't do two hard whiskey drinks in 1 month. So that's the New York sour. I'm your thoughts other than I hate red wine?
I think it tastes kind of gross. But again, I'm a fruity girl. I barely can handle liquor. This is a lot for my palate.
Yeah.
And I don't like wine.
I full disclosure to the viewers at home who cannot see in this podcast room, I did give Beth the smaller by a lot. I was like, this isn't going to be your jam.
You can have a little taste. Yeah.
But I think you actually might like this next one. So the next one I'm calling the Honey Crisp.
Okay.
If you grab your beverage, it's going to be, this is our first mocktail.
Ooh, it smells amazing, but maybe because there's strawberries on the top.
That could be it too. But it's our first mocktail that we're doing on this on the podcast. So we recognize not everybody can drink, not everybody wants to drink, and that's okay. And sometimes you like drinking and you want to take a break. So we went ahead and did a nice summary mocktail. So this has a non-alcoholic cider in it. We used a local cider, Sheffield. And so, but you can use Martinelli if you're feeling spicy. But I would say reduce the next ingredients. We also have some honey syrup in it, which is 1-to-1 honey and water. If you're using something really sweet like Martinelli's, this is a dry cider relative to other ciders. So if you're using something really sweet, use a little bit less honey syrup. And then it's got some club soda.
Okay. Refreshing.
You like that one?
Not bitter. Not Merlot-y. Just tastes a little bit like flavored water.
It's nice. That one's a good porch pounder. Mm-hmm. The honey syrup is actually really good in it. Makes it a little bit fun and a little bit special.
Yeah, I could do with a shot of vodka in it.
Yeah. But
it's good. But that defeats the purpose of a mocktail.
But I have to tell you, my husband and I ordered the Curious Elixirs cocktails, which they're all non-alcoholic cocktails. But they're supposed to be not sweet and still have interesting flavors. And every one, I still order them because there's a couple of them I really like. But every one, my husband would say, this would be really good with some booze in it. And I'm like, damn it defeats the purpose. I'm trying to be dry January or something.
Yes. But it was good. It was good. So good job, Sam.
Thanks.
2 solid drinks. One I will never have again, and one that I could drink on your porch.
Well, I have all the ingredients to make it at most times. So
going back to the book now, I had never read this book. even though we are trying to reread childhood classics that we've already partaken in. I had never even heard about this book, which I wish I had. I think that
That's kind of after your time, though, in school, right?
First of all,
sorry.
I would have been a junior in high school when this came out.
So you would have not read this.
No.
Yeah.
But I could have.
This in 1998, I was in
preschool. I know.
Like third or fourth grade.
Okay,
like I would have, this would have been right on.
Yes.
We should have read this.
Yes.
But I was in Eastern Colorado. So I did not read this.
Okay. But we're going to start with the back of the book. Sam's going to read it for us.
Malika suffers every day from the taunts of the other kids in her class. If they're not getting at her about her homemade clothes or her good grades, it's about her dark skin. When a new teacher, whose face is blotched with a startling white patch, shows up at their school, Malika can see that there's bound to be trouble for her, too. But the new teacher's attitude surprises Malika. Miss Saunders loves the skin she's in. Can Malika learn to do the same?
So big topics.
Yeah.
I kind of have to laugh a little bit because the whole premise of this book is this is a black girl who's has dark, beautiful skin, but is constantly made fun of and called ugly and all these things. And then it doesn't make me laugh, but it made me giggle because the girl on the front of the book is freaking gorgeous. Like,
yes,
so beautiful. And I'm picturing this girl who's so beautiful, but that is just being tormented because she doesn't live up to this standard.
So I was going to wait to talk about this, but there was a point in the book where they were all teasing her and everything that she was describing. I literally wrote, I bet she's gorgeous.
Yeah.
And everybody just freaking hates her for it.
Because she's tall and she's thin and she has a look and an edge. And
she's got like Lupita Nyong'o skin. Like, she's
gorgeous.
Freaking gorgeous.
Yes.
And like the other people, especially the other girls in the class who are so mean to her, freaking know it.
Oh, yeah. They got to keep her down.
Yeah,
because once she knows her worth, forget about it.
Yep. And she's smart. She's good at school. Like, yeah, that's what I kept thinking is like, she's just probably freaking, she's got it all and she just doesn't know it.
Yeah. Well, I love the way the author wrote this book. It just had such an interesting, nice flow and rhythm to it.
Yeah.
I think it's one of the better written books that we've read.
Yeah. You kind of take the journey with her in a way, which I kind of liked.
And she's in 7th grade. They don't say what city she's in, but she's in a city. So you can just kind of picture what that's like for her to live in a place that is not the best neighborhood. Like she talks about in a couple places where she's walking on a block that's empty. And there's a lot going in her neighborhood that is not great, and a lot happening in her school that's not great. And so it opens up and she's at school and she sees this teacher that has that's a black woman but has a blotch on her face of white. A la MJ.
Well, I pictured more like Winnie Harlow, right? The model.
Yeah. Yes. Very much so. And this woman is beautiful and put together and like
she dresses well and she dresses like expensive.
The girl has expensive taste and has the money to back it up. And
she got the rollie on her arm and she pouring Sean Don, man.
But every time they describe her, they're really describing her clothes and her look and just
I wanted to see I kind of want to see the movie version of this because honestly I just want to see The Devil Wears Prada.
Yeah.
Like I want to see like, who was she wearing today?
Yeah.
But I
mean, they say that she's like fat like nobody's business, but to me that's not an indicator of not being hot. So
no, I guess I sort of pictured like Queen Latifah.
Exactly. Queen Latifah. Like
just like an Amazonian glamazon beauty.
Yes.
Just like what a bad bitch.
Yes.
She's sorry, bitch in the nicest, like obviously the like reclaiming it way.
Yes.
But like just a badass.
Yes, very much so.
Yeah.
And Malika, she is not a badass biatch at this point.
No.
She lost her dad a few years ago. First of all, she's in 7th grade, which is the worst. 7th grade is the worst. Like 6th, 7th, halfway through 8th grade, worst years of your life, at least for a lot of people. And I worked with children for a long time, and I'll just say for the record, yes. Yeah. That's a really rough age.
Maybe someday I'll tell you, but like I had a lot of like terrible, terrible shit go down
in middle school,
basically between like 6th and 7th grade.
Like bullying? Terrible?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Like kids weren't very nice. Also, I think I also wasn't the nicest either. So there's a couple examples of me not being very nice. So you're just like, you're so unsure of yourself. And also you're like hormonal as shit.
Yeah. Well, I heard something really wise once is that middle school is you're not learning like math and like history. That's not the point.
You take that back. That's where I learned algebra.
Okay. Calm down.
Calm down,
PhD.
But
the real thing you really learn in middle school is how to human and how to like have like friendships and social norms. I don't know how much that goes anymore, especially with the pandemic kids that were not face to face.
Now they just do it online.
Yeah, but it used to be like, you know, it's the first time for some people that you're having those like fights between friends that are have higher stakes and calling someone, you know, ugly to their face and then seeing the hurt kind of thing and being called.
I think I had my like first real friend breakup in like 6th grade where, you know, I told somebody that I didn't really want to be friends anymore. And that's like, that's a hard time in your life.
Oh,
you know?
yeah. It's awful. And Malika's in it. I mean, she lost her dad just a few years ago. Her mom had a complete nervous breakdown. And the way she got out of it was to start sewing, which relatable. Sam did that. She didn't have a nervous breakdown. Let me take that back.
Let's not talk about maybe a little, but no, I actually thought her mom was quite charming and quite sweet and obviously loved Malika very much.
Oh yeah.
And the unfortunate sewing was like, I was like, well, that sucks for Malika. But also, you know, I totally understand where she's like, this is the thing that's getting me through is I'm making outfits.
Yeah. Well, I remember when you started to come to work, I'm like, ooh, that's a cute skirt. Ooh, that's a cute dress. You're like, I made it. Yeah. Malika's mom is not quite as talented. She misses.
Okay, we should be very nice, but this is also. I mean, I relate because that's how I dealt with like proposals last year. Right, I had to write a lot of proposals, and every time I basically have an outfit of clothing for every proposal because every time I'd get flustered or I'd like send it off to my colleagues to like read, I'd be like, and now I'm gonna cut some stuff. That's how I'd like get through it.
Okay, well,
yeah.
I mean, kind of similar.
Yeah, honestly, that's why I read the stuff about her. I was like, oh man, her mom. I kind of get it.
Is in it. And, you know, she's struggling. Like this poor girl, her mom is as supportive as she can be.
But there's a limit on what any human can do.
So again, her mom is just really struggling to get through over the death of her father and just becoming a single parent and single income and just what is that? And then, you know, poor Malika, she goes to school and she's a smart girl. She's super smart. She's great at math. She knows people and she's just ridiculed. And just every turn, they're just so mean to her. And her quote unquote friends, which she has a friend named Shar, who we come to find out later, Shar has like flunked 7th grade 3 times and is really like 16.
Yeah. So that totally blew my mind. I was like super, when that came through, I like had the idea that maybe she had like, okay, this is wounded. We had a deacon that used to call it wounded wounder, right? I was like, okay, Char, you know, like
she's
Char
gone
is the
through
wounded
some stuff.
wounder,
yeah.
But and they kind of go into her. We'll probably talk about it later, but like with her sister, you know, they go into stuff. But yeah, she's also can like maybe drive.
Yeah. Like she's of the age, and I'm sorry, a 16-year-old versus a 13-year-old body wise is very different.
Yeah,
and Char likes to dress. I mean, I can't remember when her parents are gone. Did they both pass away or did they just leave? I don't know.
Yeah, there might be like some incarceration, but her parents are not.
They're not there.
They're not present,
and they are her sister who's 25 and. She's 25 and she's partying and hardcore partying. There's a part in the book where she's paying Shar to like stay up all night and just like
be a waitress basically.
Yeah,
wait
keep the
tables.
drinks coming, empty out ashtrays and just
she's hosting
everything.
These parties, which also seem kind
super
of sketch. Yeah,
she's charging people and they're just getting down. Fun fact: in 2021, the author wrote a sister sequel to this book.
Whoa.
And it's called The Life I'm In, and it's Char's story. And it's the story of kind of like after the events of this book, she's kind of gets to a place where she's on her
sent
own.
Away, right?
Yeah. And it takes the journey of her and she goes on a bus kind of to nowhere and she's lured into human trafficking. So
oh my God.
Yeah.
Go ask Alice. And this book had a baby.
Yes. So I didn't have time to read it, but the good reviews were actually really high on it. So I'm kind of wanting to read that story too, to just see.
Well, especially as nice of an author's.
Yeah. So Malika really just wants to be like the other students.
Yeah. She wants to be cool. She wants to be liked. She wants to have a boyfriend.
And she's not. She just, again, she's tall. She's lanky. She's, at some point they describe her skin as midnight black. Mm-hmm. And, colorism is a real thing.
Yeah.
Especially in the Black community. And, I'm not as familiar with it. There's someone in the book that they're talking about. He's half and half. So he's like half white, half black. That's what I am. Mm-hmm. I'm a lighter skin tone. However, I've always wanted darker tones, which I remember one time I was out to lunch or dinner with a newer friend, this other Black woman, and she was from the South. Mm-hmm. And I made mention of like, oh my gosh, yes, I wish I was tanner. Like, I wish I was darker. And she was like, I've never heard anyone say that. And I was just like, kind of shocked. Like, it was just really eye-opening to me. And, I grew up here, which is Eastern Washington, which is, I think our population is like under 2% Black. And where I lived, like when I grew up, I remember being in middle school, elementary school, high school, and at any given time, there was probably 5 other Black kids in the entire school.
Yeah.
And so it was just a different vibe. And so reading Malika's story was so interesting because she's, everybody there is Black,
Right.
And just like the things that are going on, like I just wish I would have read this story when I was younger.
Yeah.
Because for me, I had such a disconnect with my culture because like, my mom's white, so she wasn't bringing Black culture necessarily into our home.
Right.
We lived in a primarily white neighborhood. I went to a primarily white schools. And it was just like really challenging. I remember like when I went away to college, I went to Chicago. Mm-hmm. And
because you got aunts in Chicago.
I have an aunt
right?
in Chicago,
yeah. my
dad's side. So I have she's black aunt. And I remember going there and it was such a culture shock. And I remember I went to this it was like a little convenience store across from her apartment complex. And I was going to get a sandwich and it was like the woman working there was Black. And I started to order like a turkey club or something. And she looked at me. She's like, where are you from? And I was like, oh, I'm from Washington State. And she's like, oh, like, because I was like in, the legit, like not South Side, but I was in the South Loop of Chicago. Mm-hmm. And this woman was just like, what is this accent, ma'am? And what is this? Like, I was just kind of a fish out of water.
Right.
And then I started classes and I took this African-American studies class, which I was so excited for because most of my interactions with African-Americans had been through TV.
Right.
It was like Punky Brewster had a best friend named Cherry. And I related to her. A Different World blew my mind. Mm-hmm. Like A Different World is where I learned so much about Black culture and just like things I'd never been exposed to. And it was just like and like Family Matters. And there was just,
right.
I mean, Steve Urkel is not the epitome of the culture, but it was, I mean, maybe. Did I do that?
Yeah.
But it was like I was, everything I'd really experienced with people my age was on TV.
Right.
But when I went to college, so I take this African-American studies class and everybody in the class is, I went to a commuter school. So almost everybody was from Chicago. So everybody pretty much was from Chicago, Black, except for me and this Jewish guy. And it was fascinating because like I was so excited to take the class, but then like it was the first time I was ever in a class where I wasn't the minority, which was mind blowing.
Yeah.
Like it was so different. And then so many different backgrounds, you know, and then I remember like the professor, it became very clear that like I was different.
Yeah.
We would talk about things like it was the first time I ever heard about good hair. It was the first time I really had heard about colorism in this class. Like it was the first time I heard about a lot of things. And so I'm sitting there just like eyes wide open, like, oh my gosh, what what is this? And it got to the point where we were talking about like family traditions at like Thanksgiving. Mm-hmm. And so people were talking about, yeah, we make greens, we make this. And the professor looks at me like, Beth, what does your family do?
Oh, no.
And he like called out me and he called out this Jewish guy. And I was like, well, we eat lefse because, my mom's Norwegian. Oofta. It's just like, it was wild. And some of the girls in the class, they kind of took me under their wing a little bit. And like, we would go out to lunches and stuff and just talk. And there definitely was like a little bit of a cultural divide. Cause again, growing up in the city of Chicago is very different than growing up in Eastern Washington.
Right.
But but we still had similarities. So
yeah, I think that's interesting because, I think it shows that any culture is not a monolith.
Yes.
Right. And everybody's
Absolutely.
experience is going to be a little bit different. But yeah, to go from being the only black kid or not the only, but like
basically
one of the few black kids in Kennewick, you know, to being like, you know, in your own way, like another outlier, that's got to be a whole nother.
Oh yeah. It was wild.
Whole nother trip.
It was wild. And you know, in our town, it's, you know, from back in the day, it's segregated. And so there's a part of town that has a bigger population of black people. And then there's a part of town that doesn't. And I, of course, was in the part of town that doesn't. And we're, you know, part of the reason why we wanted to read this book in June is because of Juneteenth. And I remember going to my first Juneteenth in the Tri-Cities. I'd never seen so many black people in my life. And I was just like, again, my mind was blown. I didn't even know that this was possible.
Right.
And it was the first time I felt cute because all of a sudden I was like strutting my stuff, and I was like in 8th grade. So there was like all these like college age and like, well, I thought they were college. They were probably in high school. But I'm like walking and I'm finally getting looks where that wasn't really happening. And like, anyway, it was a whole thing. And
yeah, I didn't realize that there was, I think when I first moved here, I thought, well, because I'd read all the demographic data of like Richland, especially Richland and Kennewick, right? And was like, oh, it's mostly white people. But and it is primarily Caucasian. Pasco is very different in that it is largely Hispanic, but also has a sizable black community.
Yeah.
And I think going to Juneteenth in Pasco was a big thing. And then reading about like the history of like some of the workers that came up to work at the Hanford site, that there was actually like a sizable black community that came up to work at the Hanford site. You know, it's so weird. You definitely start to see how segregated it's still in its own
thing.
Yeah, but it's, you know, it's not quite sundown town levels, but
no,
I mean, historically
Kennewick
was a sundown town.
Yes, which is great. I remember my dad telling a story.
So was the town my grandparents grew up in. And
it's wild.
Yeah. And now knowing what that means is like,
oh, right?
What the?
I know. My dad told a story how he read about Kennewick, Washington when he lived in Georgia and how it was a sundown town. And then he ended up living there. And it's just like, that's so weird. And then it's wild. But back to Malika. So she is in Miss Sanders' class. She kind of just turns everything upside down. She's from a marketing background. Yeah. And so she's part of this program to bring professionals into the school to try and like shake things up and
teach for America type situation.
So Malika and her friends, who are not really her friends.
No, they're
awful.
Yeah. This is not even that reciprocal. They're just a tit for tat. Like, you do my homework, I give you clothes and let you like sit around me, and but if I make fun of you, you have to laugh.
Yes, you have to take it. You have to do whatever we say.
Yeah.
Charlize, who they called Char, and then Raina and Raze, who are twins that are like kind of the clique. They are so over Malika, but whatever. So they're in the bathroom, and the bathroom, first of all, doesn't have stall doors.
Relatable.
Yeah.
That's how our dorms were in college.
Because are you serious?
Well, because people would get drunk and rip them off. And then the school was like, fuck no, we're not replacing them.
Oh my gosh.
Kev's dorm in college had no stall doors. And then for a while, there wasn't even a divider between the stalls.
How does one go number 2 under those circumstances?
You just gotta.
Somebody's brushing their teeth and the other person's right there just making eye contact, dumping
dropping a deuce. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Because at some point somebody got drunk on like Incredible Hulks, and then Incredible Hulked the divider out. My friend lived in a dorm, just to talk about this. My friend lived in a dorm where they actually had to get relocated for about 2 months because somebody got drunk and ripped a sink off the wall.
Oh my gosh.
Anyway, go Boulder.
Ugh.
Go Buffs.
So the girls are in there smoking and stuff, and you know, and again, I don't think that Malika wants to be there. I think that she wants to be.
She just doesn't want to be made fun of,
yes.
Right? She talks about how traumatic the experience she has, where they're sitting around and her boyfriend at the time, Mr. Dingle Britches himself.
Not Chad. It's Caleb. Caleb Jamal. Chad.
Caleb ends up like kind of abandoning her, and she talks about how humiliating that is. And so basically her whole thing right now is just keep the status quo. This is all she has. She has to just keep this going until she meets Miss Saunders, who like throws it all kind of up in the air.
And I think what I love is one of the very first things that happens with this teacher is that clearly she has something on her face that is different. And the kids notice it. And I'm sorry, middle school kids are brutal.
They're so mean.
If you want to lower your self-esteem, ask a middle schooler what they think about you.
Yeah.
And you will be humbled. And the kids are starting to make fun of her. I think they draw a picture of her on the blackboard. And then she's like, all right, give it to me. And they all start just talking to her.
There's nothing, I think that she has like a phrase where she's like, I've traveled the world. There's nothing you can't say to me that hasn't been said to me in 5 different languages.
Yeah.
Like, come at me, bro.
And then one kid does. And I loved this. So they say, not to hurt your feelings, but I think it says, you're a freak. And I'm just like, middle school kids are the effing worst.
Would say that.
They would say that.
Yeah.
Like, I remember I had a student once that was, I said like something kind of snarky to him or something in a funny, jesty way. And I just gotten a really bad haircut. The kind of haircut that you chop it all off and you get bangs and you're like, you can't put it in a ponytail and it looks horrible and
you
greasy.
have to wait like 3 months for it to come back.
Horrific. And I could see him stop himself from like, I knew exactly what he was going to say. I knew he was going to cut me deep. Mm-hmm. And he like looked at me and then just because we had a relationship, he stopped himself. And I was just like, ooh, I just got lucky.
Dodged
because I really didn't want to cry tonight. In front of these students.
We sort of talked about this about a mutual friend getting, sort of bullied by the resident 13-year-old and how she's sort of scared of the 13-year-old because she's kind of mean. And there's an age, you're at that age, I think, where you're first like, they're at the age where you first realize how much damage you can do with words.
Oh, yeah.
And like, you will do it. You will do it to your mom. You will do it to your friends. You will do it to your not friends. You will do it to a boyfriend or a girlfriend. Like, they're just shit.
They're horrible.
Yeah.
They're horrible. And thankfully most grow out of it, but some don't. So we follow Malika kind of on this journey. There's a point where Miss Saunders, she assigns them a group assignment and she breaks Shar and Malika up, which is like,
because she knows.
She knows. It's kind of around this time that Malika just kind of starts getting a little bit lax on doing Shar's homework. And so she starts writing this.
Well, she puts her with the girl who's good at cooking.
What?
Oh, she puts her with the girl that
that's right.
Is kind of like maybe not the brightest bulb in the box, but knows her way around a kitchen.
Yes. And like, I remember she was like, trying to fight doing the assignment. And then finally she's like, we're going to do it because she can't help but be good. And she decides to write this journal entry in the voice of a slave girl that is on a ship being transported across the world to this new horrific life. And just the writing of that was really good too. And it was really engaging, even though it was clearly written by a 7th grader. Like, it felt like it was written by a kid, but it still was impactful. And I don't know, I just really liked it.
There was a sort of a juvenile nature to it where she like, the girl was really worried about the boy thinking she was beautiful that was like next to her. And I was like, yep, that's what 7th grade you thinks.
Hormones, baby.
I'm on a slave ship, but does he think I'm hot?
I mean,
sort of had a moment of
like I think that's what you do when you're that age.
That's the age of it.
It's like that's your context is like boys looking cute.
Oh yeah, even into high school, my best friend Cookie and I this is like so stupid, but at the end of every summer we would go through the yearbook and basically decide what boys are we gonna like next year by going through the yearbook. And so
I mean, it's not a bad idea. I'm pretty sure that I
gotta
have
get your summer strategy on
that has like circles of boys that I wanted to
exactly
to be with. So there's a lot of kind of the same. It's like kind of the same day to day for Malika. She's just kind of like tormented. Goes home, does homework, tormented.
She hangs out with her other friend though, the one that went Sweets. Yeah, the one who went to the gifted and talented school. And it comes out that Malika had the opportunity to go to that school and literally sabotaged her own damn interview.
Yeah.
And her mom cried.
I get it though, but like she's so young and just that unknown. And especially like it had to been right around the time her dad had passed.
Maybe.
And I don't know. I just
you don't see the big
picture.
Yeah.
And just the fear of going to a school like that. And I think she even said that like it was less diverse and what that would feel like. And it's like you've already been made fun of for being Black, to think about going into a situation where now you're extra other.
Yeah. No, I get that. So I went to a high school. I didn't go to the high school I was supposed to go to. I went to a high school in town. So I could do like a program with like, accelerated schooling and stuff. And I do remember that there was like a point at which I had a friend that tried to convince me to apply to an actual like boarding high school.
Oh, wow.
Like because their brother had gone there. And I thought about it, but I never applied because I just couldn't even see myself there.
Yeah.
And so I do kind of wonder if that's part of it too, is like, if she knows she's good at math, but she doesn't maybe know how good at math she is. And she knows she's good at writing, but not like she doesn't know how good she is. That if you never see it, which is why I think Miss Saunders is so important. If you don't see that like excellence and success, or it seems like, oh, that belongs to other people, then you can't even imagine.
No. And I just think it's so important to have a teacher like that or an adult like that in your life that's cheering you on and rooting for you. Like I had a teacher in elementary school that was that for me. Like I wrote her letters in the summer, which is looking back now, I'm like, oh, was she taking pity on you? Like what was the thing? But she had beautiful penmanship and she'd write me these letters. And I think she'd always talk about like, I'm a very young, mature young woman. And I was different than the other kids my age in that respect. Like I had some parentification stuff going on and, just was quote unquote an old soul. And it was hard for me to fit in sometimes. And she spoke to that and it really encouraged me. And I held on to those letters, like, because it just inspired me for years. Yeah. But it's like, even though she's fighting it so hard, Malika does not want any help from Miss Saunders. Like she is.
Yeah. She's like got a little too much of the like, I got this. I'm good. Even though she's like very like also kind of knows she's not good.
Yeah. I'm wondering too if it goes back to fear again of like the fear of like accepting help. Well, from a teacher too, because then it's like you don't want to be.
Well, she's already had issues with like being sucking up to the teacher at this stage does not make you more cool, you know?
Well, and then she had that moment of cool where she's like decided to cut her hair off.
Yeah. Oh,
and she goes to the salon and they cut it and it goes back
Everyone
to her.
Talks her up.
Yeah. And it's like, it goes back to she's probably just this gorgeous, tall, beautiful
Exactly. I
girl.
think that's the point where I wrote, she must be so pretty.
Yeah. And she was feeling herself. And she got some new clothes that her mom actually paid for, like she didn't make. She goes to school the next day, which, there's nothing like a fresh outfit, like just feeling yourself.
First day of school energy.
Oh my God. Okay. I have a great first day of school energy. It's like one of the best moments of my life. Please don't think I live in my middle school days, but it was one of those moments. So I was always a little chubby. I mean, I still am, but I was like, I was very like round. Yeah. Like, I was a round person, like a round faced when I was in 6th grade, 7th grade. And then somewhere between 7th and 8th grade, I dropped a bunch of weight and I just kind of like became more womanly. And girl, it was out of a movie. Yeah. First of all, I was wearing like slouchy pants, like jeans with like fake Timberlands, and then maybe
I love it so much.
Like a no fear kind of shirt because it was the mid 90s, and then I had like dog tags on, and I like walk in, and there's some of my friends, and this girl was like, "Oh my gosh, look at Beth," and I was like, that's right. And I just strutted and it felt so good. And I'm like, I've been chasing that dragon the rest of my life. It was straight out of a movie. And it's like, that's what I was thinking about. She walks in thinking she's going to get it. And like, at first they kind of did. They kind of like, some of the guys were like, oh, okay. And then all of a sudden comes.
Somebody had to chop her down.
Yes.
Miss Shar got super jelly face and had to chop her down.
Yeah. And it was awful. And then she literally like put a baseball cap on and just,
I got super sad at that point because I wanted her to just like get on with her bad self like super hard at that point. Because I was, there is nothing, than a cool haircut and you just feel like, again, you just feel like $1 million. Yeah.
There's nothing like it. Yeah. Like when you feel that self-confidence, dude, nothing can like tear you down.
I have to tell you, I got a pair of Massimo pants.
Ooh, that's classy.
Well, Target. Massimo for Target.
Okay.
And they were like magenta. And then I got a yellow shirt and I got these shoes that matched. They were magenta and then, but the sole was yellow.
So good.
That was the beginning of my love affair with bright clothing.
Oh, I love it. So there's a couple like random incidents that I thought were pretty funny. Like, first of all, the fact that like the lunch ladies would like sabotage the kids' food. Like Malika's like, okay, like be careful what you say and do because they'll like put pencil shavings in your food or pepper in your milk.
That's classic lesson. That's lesson number 1. Don't fuck with the lunch ladies.
That's right.
Don't fuck with anybody who gives you food.
No.
What the hell, people?
But Char does because Char has big attitude and she goes in talking a mess, being wild.
And well, enjoy eating your spit because that's literally what's gonna happen.
They did that. Well, I don't know if they spit, but they made her like a burnt, disgusting food.
Yeah.
And then she, of course, is like forcing Malika to like take it back. And she's just like, the lunch ladies are being nice to her. She's like, don't fix the sandwich. And she takes it back and Char eats it. I'm just like, okay, we're seeing Malika like get some confidence and push back a little bit.
Yeah, she chips away a little bit at
smidge.
This point. But the like the sabotage was so good. I had a little giggle at that point.
I mean, I love a good revenge plot.
I did too.
I do have to say in the book, I kept waiting for her to like really give it to them because like right away too, remember like Char's like dating or like Char likes to flirt with all the boys. And so she's flirting with somebody's boyfriend.
Yeah, she like makes out with him.
Yeah. And then Malika gets blamed and punched for it.
Yeah. So while I would love to see the like, you know, Malika just fucks everybody up and like, you know, fights Char, I do think that this is the more realistic tale.
Oh, absolutely.
And if you're like giving, you know, basically the best success is you just doing your damn thing and getting out and getting your schoolwork done and do that.
Yes. Spoiler alert, she does not become John Wick. It is not that is not what happens. Anyway, there's a lot of back and forth that happens.
She also gets bullied by that other boy.
John.
John, yeah.
John John is nasty. And
he's a little shit.
And we find out he's hated her since middle school. And
oh man, this made me think about when I got bullied a lot when I was a kid, but it turned out that there was a kid that I didn't know I had been a dick to.
Oh.
On the tetherball court. Okay. I had apparently talked a lot of shit and been which that checks out for me playing sports. Even when I'm the worst person playing that sport, I will talk shit. But you know, I guess I had like kind of harassed him and he remembered that. And then like later he was like, oh yeah, you were really mean to me. And I had no idea. I was like, I don't even remember you from that age. Like, sorry.
Which is
no. But
yeah,
you
but
know,
I get it. Yeah.
But it, you know, we later dated, but I just like, I didn't remember you from that age. And he was like, yeah, you were like really mean to me on the tetherball court. And so I think one of the lessons that that one actually hit me really hard. But you may be the most bullied person in the world, but you never know also what you've done either on purpose or accidentally to somebody else. And so while you may be the hero, you may not be the hero in your own story, but you may be the hero in your own story. You also may be the villain in somebody else's.
Yeah.
And for what is a seemingly stupid reason, but you know, Malika was the villain in John John's story.
Which is wild because he
was so nasty to
So
her.
mean to her. Like he sang a song about her that caught on and he was just horrible.
Yeah. Wounded wounder every time.
Yes.
This is the wounded wounder, that somebody who has internalized pain and then they're lashing out. And so maybe, you know, there's a lot of these moments where it's like, if you just asked, are you okay?
Are you okay?
But you're 13. You don't have the capacity.
There's not that.
You're 12.
This kind of just goes on for a while. We see different instances of her being bullied and people just being mean to her. Because of the fight early in the book, she has to start working in the office, which allows her to get some intel. There's a point where she's supposed to meet Miss Saunders after school and she kind of puts it off and she overhears a private conversation that Miss Saunders was very vulnerable with another teacher and then kind of has to ask Malika to like, please don't share this.
Yeah.
And Malika really debated for a minute. She's like, I could tell Char this and then I would
I would win.
I would win. Yeah, I would get some favor. And but at the same time, she's starting to see who Char really is and how she's really not her friend and like how mean she actually is. She had this like thing with Caleb for a while and Char's definitely jealous of that. And Caleb ditched Malika because he says that he thought it would help with the bullying. Like, you know, because he's so fabulous. And
yeah, I believe that for like 10 seconds.
Yeah.
Douche canoe. Sorry. Sorry.
True. He like tries to put the moves on her in detention, which I appreciate.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Gross. Buzz off.
Seriously. There is one like trigger warning. There's this scene where Malika goes to hang out with Shar at her sister's party and stuff, and she realizes she made a mistake and needs to go home.
Mm-hmm.
And she's walking home, and these two older guys are like calling out, catcalling her, and they're getting closer and closer, and they kind of corner her.
Yeah.
And they start to get more physical and handsy, and she like drops one in with a nut punch, and then was able to get away from the other one and is running away. And she talks about, you know, even for the next few days and how much it's bothering her. It's been a month and she's still thinking about it. And it just, I just felt so for her. Like she's already going through so much.
And so two creeps really just got to compile.
Yeah. I remember being that age and not knowing what to do with the advances of men and how
especially older men.
Yeah. I remember being in 8th grade. Well, wasn't advanced, but so my friends and I are walking home from school and we're all having fun. We're going to a friend's house. We have to walk up this hill. It's a whole thing. And there's a gaggle of us 8th grade girls. And we're walking by this house and there's a man sitting in his garage with the garage door halfway down, vigorously masturbating. And like at the time we were like, what is it? You know, like most of us hadn't seen a penis yet. You know, most of us were like just starting to like go to other levels with boys. And like, I just remember we were all like, and we all just started laughing and screaming because what do you do?
What the hell else?
We didn't have cell phones or, you know, nobody could. But I was just like, as an adult thinking about that now, that this man, as children are walking home from school, is just sitting in his garage, pleasuring himself, exposing himself and committing a sex crime. But it was just like, it kind of, Malika's story kind of took me back to those moments where it's just like, it's the first time experiencing adults acting in a way that is so inappropriate. Yeah. And like, what do you do with that, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
you in some sense, I mean, you're incredibly vulnerable at that time.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Because you just don't know what to do.
Yeah.
Like now I'd be like, ugh, creep.
Yeah.
You know?
I would take pictures. I'd publicly shame you, get you fired from your job.
Put it on Nextdoor.
You're going on TikTok.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm going to ruin your life.
Infamy.
Yeah. And you're going to go to jail. You can't expose yourself to children.
No, that's exactly it. I would call the cops at this point. But, you know, at that age, you don't know. And I do also think that for better or for worse, I think back to experiences that I had and I was like, did I do something wrong?
Yeah.
I messed up.
Yeah.
You know, and so I imagine that Malika, she internalizes a lot of the incidences as her own fault.
Yeah.
That are clearly not her fault. So
one of the things that was interesting that came out of this is that the diary she was writing as the slave girl, which was her name backwards, is how she wrote it. She starts writing it.
Oh my God, I totally missed that.
Yeah.
What? Okay, now I gotta go find it.
Yes. 97, page 97. There's an entry. Yeah.
For crepe's sake, I'm dumb as hell.
Maybe not. No, I'm done.
No, but it is basically Malika mixed up.
Sorry, not backwards. And what is it?
An anagram? Yeah.
We'll go with anagram.
I'm so stupid. I did not even make that connection.
But she starts using she starts writing her own pain and experience even more so through this other girl's eyes. And, you know, she has this entry right after this event where she says, where do you run when there's no place to run? You know, they trapped me. I couldn't see a way out, you know, and it was just real. I don't know. I thought it was a really great way to teach kids to, you know, what a great example for students to read this book and say like, okay, this is another way for me to get my emotions out is to say it through the eyes, through the lens of someone else or just to write it down.
Yeah, exactly. To get you don't have to necessarily just write and relive it in that way, you know, at all times. So.
And at this point too, she's finally meets up with Miss Saunders and she's like sharing her work with her and she's getting all this great feedback. She actually ends up deciding to enter this library contest and that was super exciting. But trouble's a brewing. Trouble is a brewing because Shar is failing her classes.
Yeah, and then instead of, you know, looking within.
Yeah, she does not.
No.
She tells her big sister, who makes the biggest scene at school.
Yeah.
The principal has to call Miss Saunders into the office and she's going off.
Which is not helpful for Miss Saunders because it turns out Miss Saunders is having her own bullying problems with the other teachers too, because the other teachers and the office people don't like her because she's come in and she's kind of shaking up the status quo.
So Char decides to take some revenge. And Miss Saunders had this way of like, whenever she was teaching on a certain topic, she would decorate her classroom, you know, just do things very differently. And they decide that they're going to get back at her. So the twins and Char and Malika gets pulled into it, and they decide to go and just F up her room.
Yeah. Put stuff in her drawers and.
Yeah, they go and they sneak into the school in the morning. They almost get caught by the janitor. I thought it was hilarious that Char chose to wear heels because they talk about her heels clacking up the, the stairs. I'm like, who wears heels to a prank?
Listen, you gotta look hot when you're shoving spam in the filing cabinet.
They were, so they they start just like messing with stuff, and they were doing, I think, Arabian Nights or something. And so Miss Saunders had brought in some like money from a different country, and they were starting to like put glue on things and pillows, and Char to Malika is like, hey, here's a lighter, set that money on fire. And then she does the most disgusting thing ever. She sticks her finger up her nose and blows a snot rocket out.
Oh.
And I was just like, ma'am, like,
well, you know,
I'm sorry. She was trying to be classy and like, oh, she's like got it all together. I've never seen a classy girl blow a snot rocket.
Oh, but I have seen a classy girl spit in some other girl's face.
Are you serious?
Yeah. What? Yes. In high school fights.
Oh my gosh. I would rather someone slap me in the face than spit on me.
You've never seen anybody spit on somebody else?
I mean, on TV, not in real life.
Yeah, we were hard in Aurora. Aurora, Colorado, hard AF.
There wasn't a ton of girl fights. I don't remember a ton of girl fights at school.
No, I told you about the most one-sided fight I've ever seen. That there was only one security guard, so she grabbed one girl and the other girl started hitting the girl that was grabbed by the security guard.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, no, that was, okay, I'm not saying it was really common, but like it was common-ish. I saw really another one-sided fight in middle school when somebody brought some vodka to school.
What?
And one of the girls got really drunk and got in a fight and with a non-drunk girl, and the non-drunk girl laid her flat. Yeah, we had a lot of fights.
Wow.
When I was in middle school, especially because I think because they kind of let it happen. I was in a kind of a country school, and there was like a point where the principal, like especially if the boys were fighting really bad, he would just take them out to the field and be like, "All right, pummel each other."
That is wild to me. Like that was
like
not,
get it out your system.
If there was even rumblings of fight, I mean, we had like a cop on campus and like
we had a cop too. He was fucking poopy flavored lollipop levels of like effective.
Yeah, I don't remember tons. I remember one time there was a girl that I thought I might get in a fight with. I was so scared. She was a little younger than me, a black girl. Like we were the two black girls in school.
You can't get
and okay. I was so upset about it, but there was just like, I can't even remember what happened. Anyway, we were on the dance team together. And I just remember like she was talking crap about me and I was older. I was like a junior and she was a freshman. So I had to like show face. And we crossed paths in the hall and we're just glaring at each other. And I like gave her the stare down so hard. And I was like, inside, I was like, oh my gosh, I really hope I don't have to fight. Because if I get hit, I'm going to cry.
So wait, have you ever been in a fight?
No, never. I mean, with my brother and stuff, but not like, I mean, I was older than him by far. So I just booby twister him up and then what's he going to do?
Yeah.
Have you gotten in a fight, Sam?
How do you think this nose is fucked up?
Like a fight without your sister, not with your sister.
With my sister.
Okay. Well, that doesn't count. I mean, it counts as a fight, but
I think she broke my nose.
Oops.
I'll tell you later how old we were when this happened. But
how old were you?
Older than we should have been
in
having
your teens?
This fight.
In your high school teens? Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's way too old.
We got in love it was pretty gnarly. But we don't do that now. Oh my God. No, we got to a point where we were like, oh God, this is illegal. like the cops could get involved. No, it was kind of a redneck thing.
Sister fights or something else. So I was at my best friend's house in seventh grade and we wanted to watch a movie and her sister had the TV in her room. And so it was one of those box TVs.
Yeah.
So she went to get it and the sister's like, no. So they're fighting over this 27-inch, 80-pound TV between this doorway, screaming at each other. And I only had a younger brother and he was significantly younger.
Yeah.
So it was like, what the hell is happening? Like,
I think in my whole life, I think I had one serious fight with my brother My sister and I, though, fought way into our teens, and like not very many physical fights, but definitely there was one I remember. And I'll be frank, she kicked my ass. Like that was the end of that. But yeah, it was bad. It was real bad. She was a lot bigger than I was. Even by the time we hit our teens, Casey was way taller than I was.
Not hard to do.
Hey,
I mean, we're literally the same height. So.
I'm 5'2".
Oh my goodness.
Shut up at your face.
This is a non-bullying podcast.
Yeah. No, so just to be fair, I do not advocate for this. And I also don't advocate for that level of like physical violence between people. Like that was really unhealthy. And we've both been in therapy. We've both dealt with it. Like we've both talked about it since that's like was a bad precedent that was set, you know. Would not do it now, but
it happened.
It happened. So no, I used to fight. I haven't been in like a school fight though. Mostly because I was so scared of getting in trouble and losing a scholarship.
Oh,
I was so scared. I just needed to get to college. That was like the goal for like, I was like, I got to get out. I got to go to college. Yeah. I can't get pregnant. I can't even look at boys.
I just need my scholarship and I got to get out of here. Yeah. Yeah. I think I had the fantasy of fighting a lot.
Yeah.
I also honestly think this might be my own bias is that Black women historically, angry Black woman thing kind of stuff. And I feel like there's some people that were intimidated by me based on the color of my skin and, you know, the size of my hips type of thing. And
you're gonna like booty check them like
maybe, but I mean, oh my gosh, no, I remember being in like high school and I went to the Bon Marché, which was what Macy's was before. Yeah. And it was such a classy store. And, this doesn't relate, but kind of relates. It was the first time I got followed in a store that I recognized I got followed. I was by Dooney and Burke, and it was like I couldn't figure out why they weren't following my friends. And it was like one of the first times I was like, oh, because I'm Black. Like it was like this light bulb because my mom never had the talk with me. Like, by the way, you know, when you're shopping, don't put your hands in your pockets and always get a bag and a receipt. And my dad was a dad, like not an 80s dad. Like, so there was no one like guiding me through that process. Yeah. So I had to like figure it out of like, oh, why are people being this way? And so I think that race played a little bit into it as I got older. People not messing with me, but maybe not. Maybe I was just.
So did you ever feel then that you couldn't like show emotion or show?
Oh, absolutely. I would never get too angry to anything. Even now I temper myself sometimes. I mean, I'm much more open now, but like, and I'm not super angry. I'm not super like.
You should be. About some of the shit that goes now.
Yes. Well, I didn't like to use the word angry because it has such a weird connotation with Black women. But it's like, I mean, most of the time I'm chill enough. Like I might talk shit or whatever, but it's like, I'm not going to throw hands. Like I'm not like enraged or anything.
But there's, I mean.
And I don't typically raise my voice. Like I barely cuss, you know, in normal day-to-day life. I just am kind of like, whatever. Again, I'm going to talk mad crap about you.
No, I guess I recognize here that is a place because I'm a pretty sassy, a little bit sassy at work sometimes. Yeah, and I'm like, what are you gonna do? But at the same time, that is a bit of a privilege. That
like my biggest fear is like making one of my coworkers cry and then having it become a thing. Even though like some of my coworkers have said shit to me that made me want to cry, that were super biased and racist and whatever, and I just kind of like, you know, you just pick your battles. I'm like, okay, am I ready? Which, you know, that's where allies come in because it's like it's safer sometimes for other people to speak up, which some people might be like, no, you have to always speak up for yourself.
No, but you spoke up for me. There was a point where I was in a position where I was as a postdoc, where some stuff happened and I was scared to speak up because I was like in the position where I might be hired and I didn't want to look like a rabble rouser. Yeah. And you spoke up for me.
Yeah. So because it was safer for me. Plus, it pissed me off.
It was some bullshit. Yeah. But you know, it
is what it is. All I have to say is it has been a challenge. I'll go more into it, but it's been a challenge. I want to rewind just a smidge because after Malika, here's Miss Saunders talk about how this vulnerable moment, how she's really feeling and the teachers don't like her and how she wants to change the world and it's not happening. And you know, she's just really going through it and talking with her friend, you know, Malika sees it and then they kind of come to this
an agreement.
Yeah.
Or like an unspoken
agreement. And then they kind of have to have it out a little bit. Yeah. Like, why are you always on me and stuff? And there was something that I really liked about what she said. It was on page 119. And she says, this is Malika talking. She says, some of us are the wrong color. Some is the wrong size, or we got the wrong face. But that doesn't make us wrong people. Now, does it? And she says, and she goes, and I sit myself up on the desk and I put my feet up like Miss Saunders had done. She's like, shoot, I know I got my good points too. And I thought it was really cute. They have this kind of come to Jesus moment where they just kind of like, Miss Saunders starts laughing. She's like, good points. Like, yeah. Like, cause Malika's basically telling her like, get over it. Because part of the thing that Miss Saunders was like talking about with her friend was just like that feeling of differentness. Yeah. And even though she had put on this front that she was kind of over it with the kids, clearly it still weighed heavily on her heart. And she talked about how like, I've always had to dress nicer than everyone else. I've always had to be the smartest, be the best in the room. And I super related to that because they talk about that a lot as a Black woman. You have to be 10 times better than everyone else to be considered average.
Well, there's like a phrase about like, may you have the confidence of a mediocre white man and the talent of a Black woman.
Yeah.
And it's like,
it's so real. Like I cannot tell you how many times in my life that I've felt, I remember I was so pissed. I was in a leadership class in college and I got a worse grade because the teachers, first of all, they couldn't tell me apart from another girl.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
Yeah. And then they were like, you're not putting in the work, which I was. And it was just one of those situations, like no matter how hard I work, they cannot see past my appearance. And it was just really challenging. But that's happened in the workplace too, or at least I felt that I have to like prove myself. I feel like it's out of necessity. Like I remember walking into a job, like the job interview for the gig that I have now. And there's always that little hesitation of like, they don't know I'm Black, you know? And it's like, I've walked into places where I've met people that didn't know I was Black and you could tell on their face, a diversity hire, you know, or that kind of thing. And then it's just like, we got a Black one, you know, just that feeling. Yeah. Super annoying.
No, I get it. I get it. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So Malika is gaining confidence. She has it out. I feel like she comes to a new understanding with Miss Saunders. And then the other thing that's cool that happens is her mom's talking to her, I feel like in a moment of clarity, and talking about how her dad was a writer, because Malika enters this library competition and she's like, oh, your dad was a writer. And she's like, I've never heard this. She's like, yeah, he used to write you stories and poems. And she finds the poem that her dad wrote for her. And it says, brown, beautiful, brilliant. My Malika is brown, beautiful, brilliant mine. And I think this just empowered her so much. Yeah. Because this person that she held in high regard, that she misses desperately, that she never, I think, got the chance to hear her daddy say, like, you're beautiful. I love you enough, you know, to where she could remember. And then all of a sudden, it just seems like it gave her a little bit of confidence.
Well, it makes the writing part a connection to her father. Right. It makes it huge. A connection to her. But it also, in some sense, also connects her further. Like, she's never mean to her mom. And I think she actually does a good job of like accepting her mom for where her mom is. Yeah. But at the same, at that age, you know, that challenge, that's not always what, you know, that's not always the skill you have. But it also gives her a tighter connection with her mom, right? Oh, yeah. And now all of a sudden they're like linked through this all.
Yeah, and they make mention that her mom's the nicest woman on the block.
Yeah, her friend Sweets is always. I think at some point Malika says something and she's like, "Don't talk about your mom like that." Yeah, you know, there's
something precious about her.
Yeah, everybody sees her that she's like a good person, and it's just like it has a shit luck right now, shit hand with losing their father.
So this is where the story really turns.
Yeah.
So this is where Shars decides, I'm going to get back at you. Yeah. And she forces the girls to meet her in the morning. Again, she's wearing her high heels. Well, she did her disgusting snot rocket, and then she decides to light the money on fire. Yep. And it lights, along with the billowing curtains.
All of the decoration. Turns out Party City. Very flammable.
Very flammable. Thousands of dollars in damage. Oh, and of course, like a bat out of hell, Shar and the twins are gone.
Bye.
2 seconds.
Yeah, she can't walk down the hall without click-clacking, but the minute she's like...
she kicked those pumps off, grabbed them, and run. Yeah. And then Malika's trying to get away, and then
the like janitor sees her and is like, oh,
Malika Madison, is that you? And she's like, dang it. And she runs home. She gets into bed, which I understand, kid logic right there. Like, I'm going to get in bed, pretend I'm asleep, Nobody's going to know.
No one will ever
Nobody
find
will
this
ever
out.
know.
Yeah.
Plot twist, they did.
Yeah.
Her mom gets a call.
And she takes the fall.
She gets brought into the office, thousands of dollars of damage. And she just...
To the point where her mom's like, I don't even know how we're going to pay this back.
Yep. And basically she doesn't say anything. And Char calls her all sweet, like, we're such good friends.
Thanks for not spilling on me.
Yeah,
buddy.
I'm going to bring you clothes and blah, blah, blah. And
doesn't matter. You're living in your house because you're grounded now.
For real.
Who gives a shit about what you're wearing?
She's not expelled, but she's
suspended,
right? And right at the same time, she finds out she actually wins the library writing competition.
Well, she can use that $100 to pay off
the thousands of dollars of debt. And Miss Saunders actually comes to her house and she's like, trying to like talk to her to get her to like turn on Char so that she's not in so much trouble. And Char, that little hooch, stole Miss Saunders' watch and stuck it in Malika's locker just to give extra.
She like planned it out, right? She's like, you can't because, just so you know. It's basically blackmail at this point.
Oh, yeah. And anyway, it was just really sad. At the same time, Malika starts getting into poetry. So she's like getting poetry books at their library. She's now trying to figure out what she's going to do with her life.
Caleb writes her some poetry.
Caleb writes her a poem.
I also just wrote bitch boy next to him for most of the book.
Yeah.
He was kind of a turd. I'm still bitter about him abandoning her one time.
Yes. There is a moment though where he does come to the rescue. So Malika is going to the store to get something for her mom, and John talking a big game. He did something to some guys, some big boys, and they start to beat the crap out of him.
Mm-hmm.
And Malika runs and gets a switch and starts whipping those boys, hitting them, like going after them. And then they start to like go after her. And Caleb actually like got the neighborhood together, and all of the neighborhood elders, everybody's like coming after them. Yes. And they band together and they're like, you're not hitting girls on our block. And the guys end up running off and stuff. But I did like that. The one thing I did like about Caleb is he was like, we can make this a better place. That's something he told her is like, like we can, you should join this movement we're going to do because we're going to try and make the school better.
Yeah.
And again, it's just all these little like nuggets of.
He's optimistic.
Yeah.
And he sees like the power of collective change.
Yes. And I think him speaking into her life and Miss Saunders speaking into her life and the poetry competition and, getting a new relationship with mom, it's building her self-confidence so that she is finally able to
effectively break with Char.
And she tells on her.
Yeah.
And Char gets expelled.
Which I don't advocate for snitches get stitches type thing. But like at this point, man, she has been taking too much crap for Char's nonsense.
Yeah. And like you said before, like I think what was really cool about this, even though I wanted her to go John Wick and I wanted her to like take Char down to where, humiliate her, like, the whole thing, that's not reality for most people. And it's not always the best.
Also, there's nothing worse that you can do to Char than what's already honestly happening in Char's house.
That's true.
She's having to like serve beer to all these older drunk people. Come on, we know what the hell she's dealing with.
It's awful.
Yeah.
And
there's nothing worse that you can do to Char than what's already happening. And all of her stuff is just lashing out.
I think Malika does do the worst thing she can do because she was actually a friend. Like she could have shown her some compassion and kindness, and she's not going to get that from the twins. And Char ruined her only along too. She ruined her only friendship, And so thankfully Char gets out of the picture. This is where Caleb writes his poem, which would you like to read it? It's on page 169
you also put it in the notes because I think you really liked it.
There's nothing like 7th grade poetry.
We've looked in our old books. It's bad.
It's really good.
To Malika, my sweet dark chocolate candy girl, would you be my almond joy, my chocolate chip, my Hershey kiss, my sweet dark chocolate butter crisp? Hand in hand, we'd walk to class and sit and talk in the sweet green grass. Roller coaster way up high, pick moonbeams from out the sky. Would you be my almond joy, my chocolate chip, my Hershey kiss, my sweet dark chocolate butter crisp?
And she's like, Caleb's home made me cry.
Yeah, I was like, he went to the convenience store and he went down the line and was like, Swisher Sweet does not rhyme. Chico stick.
Oh,
also
gosh.
does
Just
not rhyme.
Horrible poetry, but good poetry, but horrible poetry.
Well, especially compared to how beautiful the writing that she's done about the girl in the slave ship.
And then this is what got her.
Yeah,
she's like, oh,
like, man, I love
He's a
Candy.
great writer. He's a great writer.
So he's optimistic. He's got a good heart.
So our story kind of concludes. Malika comes back to school, and the first person to welcome her is actually is John.
Yeah, well, she also got John not to get his ass beat. So
yeah,
that's like the nicest. That's honestly,
it's good, and that's kind of it. And I don't know.
It seemed very. I mean, there's some of it that seems far fetched, like the whole oh, we lit the school on fire.
Yeah, and didn't just everybody get expelled. And
there was a kid that kicked a glass door out, and he just straight got expelled.
Yeah,
when I was in 5th grade, he kicked through a glass door, and
bye, sir.
You're done. Well, I think he
more
got sent to alternative school at that point because there was at that point there was more than they could do.
Yeah.
But, you don't get to stay when you light the school on fire. The girl who brought the vodka got straight expelled too, actually, when I was in middle school. There's a kid in high school that put the pond water from the biology experiment where you look at the pond water in the slide, put it in the teacher's coffee, and she got Giardia.
Oh gosh.
Yeah. Like real problem. And but she couldn't prove who it was, but she had an idea. And so that was kind of crappy.
I know. There was a kid, I remember he put acid on the back of another kid's neck in chemistry class. That got him into some trouble. And then, so I have a snitches get stitches story. So I'm sitting in biology class. I think I maybe it was in sophomore or something. And the teacher was very eccentric and wonderful. Some liked him, some didn't. I liked his flavor. He was like a poor man's Crikey. What was that guy's name?
Steve Irwin?
Yes.
Oh, I'm into it.
And so he was quite the character. And anyway, he was showing us a clip or something, and someone had a laser pointer and they got it out and were shining it. And then he's like, all right, who has a laser pointer? And they kept doing it. And he's like, okay, who has it? Who has it? Or I'm going to call security. And so security came and was did an investigation in class. And so every person got pulled into this back room and asked, do you know who has the pointer? And I know who has the pointer. It's one of my friends. And he was like a gangster too, which was really interesting. Nicest guy in the world, totally a gangbanger. Anyway, so he had the laser pointer, and so we get pulled back there, and I'm like, Beth, you got to be cool, man. And I feel the adrenaline. I am sweating, and they're me and this other girl back there, and they're like, oh, do you guys know who has a pointer? I'm like, no. And I'm like, okay, I played it cool.
No, you walked out of there and they were like, yeah, that girl knows.
She knows. And then this other girl goes back there that's this very sweet girl, would be considered a nerdy girl.
Yeah.
Kind of probably very horse girl energy. That's all I'll say. And
I was going to say, I was not in your class.
No. But she goes in and she comes out, and then they immediately stop the investigation and they pull him out. And I'm just
no.
And so then everybody's glaring at her, and I'm just oh, and she was somebody that definitely got bullied in school.
Poor
it was
girl.
Awful. But it was definitely it was terrifying. And now I snitch on everybody. Got a space heater in your office? I'm telling, not really, but.
I was going to say, I'm thinking, do I have one?
No,
I have one?
I've already checked.
I used to.
Yeah.
No, I don't, because it smells bad.
Yeah, it was not a regulated one.
The one that I had?
Yeah, I saw it.
It's in my garage.
Oh, well, you might want to throw it in the garbage. But anyway, so overall, I would say I really loved the skit I'm in. I think that it really spoke to me. It made me think a lot about my own journey with race and blackness and culture and how to navigate, especially when you are alone in the world by yourself, just trying to shop at the freaking TJ Maxx without getting followed by a college student. Thanks, Gary. I don't know what his name was, but
Gary, mind your own bees.
That literally happened. It was awesome. And I was like, oh my gosh, you're following me. And then I was like, hands up, don't touch anything. And I left the store. It was pretty upsetting.
Yeah. I didn't have a moment like that until I went to the Salt Lake airport in a rainbow sweater during Pride last year. And a lady, it took me a really long time to get service, even though there were plenty of people around. And then finally a younger lady came and asked me about my sweater for Pride. And I was like, well, yeah. Also, I just like the sweater, it's fun. It's colorful. I love colorful clothes. And then this one lady kept muttering things behind me every time she'd walk behind me. And I was like, oh, okay.
Got it.
I got it.
Got it.
I see what happened here. But it wasn't until like last year. It was, yeah.
Okay. I was in college and I got invited to Dr. Maya Angelou was speaking.
Oh,
and so there's a few of us that got invited to meet her.
You met Maya Angelou?
Yeah.
How have I not known that?
I don't know. Like, it was awkward, but
you're doing the next poetry short. Damn it.
So
here I am reading William Carlos freaking Williams.
So it was like, so we were meeting, but I'm walking to the event and I'm like, kind of hurrying. And there's this white woman in front of me. And she clutched her purse as I was approaching. She looked back, saw me, and she clutched. And I was just like, ma'am. And I didn't want to like go off.
Yeah.
And this is pre-cell phones where you could take video of people acting foolish, which I'm so thankful we have that now, because it's like people are like,
yeah,
how is this so prevalent? I'm like, no, it
was
documented.
Always happening.
Yeah. And it's so nice to be able to know this is really how people treat me, or I've been treated and whatever. And anyway, I was just like so appalled. I was like, and it was like an ugly purse too. I was like, are you kidding me?
Even steal that ugly purse.
I was like, you really think I want your nasty handbag?
Your
like, back off. Like,
hobo bag.
I have things I'm doing. Like, so I don't know. It was just freaking wild. Yeah, I have so many like crazy stories of like crazy racism stories, crazy bias stories. And it's just like a lot of times I forget them and then I'll be like, oh yeah. Remember when that person wouldn't let you in their house when you were 5 because their grandma was there and she didn't like black people? Like, just wild stuff,
Yeah.
Remember when you were 37 and your friends like grandma called you a monkey? Yeah.
Shut the fuck.
I know. It was wild. And then my friend was kind of like, I can't apologize for my family. I'm like, oh yeah, you could.
You can.
You could, but that's cool. I know you're going through some stuff, but again, just crazy stuff. And I'm just like, and I know that like everybody has their own experience and mine, quote unquote, hasn't been that bad, but it's all relative. It's been bad for me. So anyway, loved the book. I would give it like 5 chic haircuts and a tube of red lipstick because I thought it was so well written. I'm actually really excited to read the sister sequel, about Char's life, and just kind of it sounded really heavy.
I want to read it, but maybe we should read it for next year.
Maybe next year, yeah. But yeah, I really liked it. What would you rate this?
10 out of 10 Almond Joys.
Nice.
Butter crisps.
Nice.
No, I would say 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10. I liked the plot. I liked the book. I actually got really invested in it. It was a little bit of a slow start at the beginning. I had at the beginning I struggled a little bit, but I liked the way it was written. I liked the story flowed, the pacing. A lot of the books we read, the pacing is really off.
Yeah.
The pacing was great. Yep.
It just went, yeah.
Yeah, every chapter focused on something. It was important.
It was good, yeah.
And I would like to read a sequel to this where she goes to college and just
just dominates, yeah.
Yeah. But again,
an HBC and just anyway.
Yeah.
Good times. Well, speaking of good times, we're reading a very good time book next month. Sam's choice. You'll know exactly why in 2 seconds.
Oh wait, is it the one you gave me?
Yes. Do you want to tell everybody what it is?
We are reading Misty of Chincoteague by Marguerite Henry, which if you don't know is a book about horses. Yes. I loved Marguerite Henry growing up. I read many of her books, and we even went to Chincoteague once to look at the ponies.
Yeah, I believe I saw you recently in a t-shirt or a sweatshirt from there.
I sent you a picture of I still have my Chincoteague Island t-shirt, and I will wear it when we record.
I love it.
It is a slate blue.
Perfect.
You will get pictures.
I'm very excited to go full horse girl energy.
I don't want this book to be bad because I liked it so much, but I have a sneaking suspicion it's gonna be bad.
I mean, it's an award winner, so
yeah, a bunch of horse girls got together and voted that this was the best of the horse girl literature.
Well, I'm excited. I'm excited to learn more about your culture, just like you learned more about mine today.
Yes, I come from a long line of horse girls. Actually, I'll bring a book. My great aunt was very sweet and put together like a family book.
Mm-hmm.
And back in the day, my great aunt and my great I guess they were like my great aunt's cousin. So my great aunt's like twice removed or some stuff like that. They were all trick writers.
Oh, cool.
So I'll bring some pictures.
Very cool.
Of like Irma Jean roping an entire horse.
Jean. Oh, yeah. Horse girl energy.
my culture. Well, my grandma was Jelaine and my great aunt is Irma Jean.
I mean, we're there.
Yeah, Candy, toy.
We're there.
That's how everybody was named in fam. Milton,
gosh.
Doug.
So looking forward to it.